Have you ever wondered why some gardeners get buckets of massive sweet currants, while others only get a handful of tiny sour berries? Well, I am going to tell you exactly why. Today, we are talking about the secret spring, feeding for your currant bushes. I promise you, if you use this method, you will not even recognize your bushes in just 7 days. But here is the crazy part. Most people think you should leave the bushes alone in early spring to let them wake up naturally. That is completely wrong. Doing nothing is the fastest way to ruin your summer harvest. In this video, I am going to reveal a highly effective, unexpected feeding trick that changes everything. It is a secret that experienced farmers use to force the plant into explosive growth. I am curious, do you usually feed your berry bushes in the spring, or do you let nature take its course? Let me know in the comments and let us see who is on the right track. Before we get into the exact recipe, let us set the stage. Currants have been grown in gardens for hundreds of years. They are incredibly tough plants, known for surviving harsh winters. But here is the thing you need to understand. Currants are extremely heavy feeders. They use up an enormous amount of energy to produce those thick clusters of berries we all love. Over the winter, the soil loses a lot of its readily available nutrients. The cold temperatures lock everything up. When the bush wakes up, it is hungry. It is like waking up from a 6-month sleep and running a marathon without having breakfast first. Historically, old-school gardeners knew that the first meal of the year dictates the entire harvest. If the bush does not get the right mix of elements the moment its buds begin to swell, it will drop its flowers later on. Understanding this basic biology is the key to unlocking the massive potential sitting in your garden right now. Let us start by looking at what exactly happens when a currant bush wakes up after a long, cold winter. It is an incredible process, really. When the snow melts and the soil begins to warm up, the roots of the bush suddenly spring to life. They start pumping water and stored energy up into the branches. This is what we call sap flow. But here is the thing that many people miss. The bush has used up almost all of its reserved energy just to survive the freezing temperatures. It is completely exhausted. Imagine running a marathon and then being told you have to run another one immediately without any food or water. That is exactly how your currant bush feels in early spring. If you just leave it alone, hoping that nature will take its course, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. There is a common myth that wild bushes survive without our help, so garden bushes should too. But remember, we want a massive sweet harvest, not a handful of tiny sour wild berries. To get those huge juicy clusters, the bush needs an immediate and powerful boost of nutrition the moment it wakes up. Without this early intervention, the plant will simply not have the strength to form strong flower buds. And no flowers mean no berries for you this summer. Now let us talk about the single most important element your bushes need right now. That element is nitrogen. Nitrogen is the engine of early spring growth. Without it, your plant cannot produce new, healthy leaves. And as you probably know, the leaves are the solar panels of the plant. If the plant does not have big, broad, dark green leaves, it cannot capture enough sunlight to produce sugar for the berries. A classic example of a nitrogen deficiency is when your bush produces pale, yellowish-green leaves that look weak and thin. You might look at them and think they are just young, but they are actually starving. When you provide a quick-acting source of nitrogen in the early spring, you will literally see the leaves darken and expand within a matter of days. It is truly magical to watch. However, we have to be very careful. There is a very common mistake where people just dump raw manure right onto the base of the bush. Do not do this. Raw manure is too hot and can easily burn the tender new feeder roots that are just starting to grow near the surface. We need a targeted, gentle but fast-acting approach to get that nitrogen into the plant safely and efficiently. So, what is the secret ingredient for this explosive spring growth? Prepare to be surprised, because it is something you probably throw in the trash every single day. I am talking about potato peels. Yes, you heard me right. Potato peels are the absolute best kept secret for giant currants. Now you might be wondering why on earth we would use garbage to feed our precious berry bushes. Let me explain the science behind this old grandmother trick. Potato peels are incredibly rich in natural starch, potassium, and trace minerals. Currants respond to starch better than almost any other plant in the garden. When you introduce starch to the soil around the roots, it acts as a massive energy booster for the beneficial microbes living in the dirt. These microbes multiply rapidly and start breaking down organic matter, turning it into easily absorbable nutrients for the bush. It is like hiring 1,000,000 tiny chefs to prepare a gourmet meal for your plant. People often doubt this method, but the results speak for themselves. You will see thicker stems, brighter leaves, and eventually berries that are nearly twice their normal size. It is a completely free, organic miracle. Let us dive deeper into exactly how this starch impacts the size and sweetness of your berries. It is not just about growing a bigger bush, it is about the quality of the fruit. Starch from the potato peels eventually breaks down into simple sugars in the soil. The root system absorbs these elements and pushes them directly into the developing fruit clusters. This is the difference between tiny, sharp-tasting sour berries and massive, dark, sweet berries that burst with flavour. Imagine trying to bake a sweet cake without adding any sugar. That is what your plant is doing if it lacks these vital carbohydrates. A great example is comparing two bushes grown side by side. The one fed with standard chemical fertilizers might look green, but the berries often lack complex flavour. The one fed with potato starch will produce fruit that tastes richer and sweeter. There is a persistent myth that you can just sprinkle sugar water on the ground to get the same effect. Please do not do that. Refined sugar will just attract ants and harmful fungi, ruining your roots. The complex starch in potato peels breaks down slowly and safely, feeding the plant exactly what it needs, exactly when it needs it. Alright, so how do we actually prepare this secret potato peel fertilizer? You cannot just throw raw peels around the base of the bush and expect magic to happen. If you do that, you will just attract mice and rotting mold. We need to create a powerful extraction. Here is exactly what you need to do. Collect your potato peels over a few days. You want about 1 large bucket full of fresh or dried peels. Place them into a large container and pour boiling water over them. The boiling water is crucial because it immediately extracts the starch and potassium, turning the water into a rich, cloudy broth. Let this mixture steep and cool down for 2 to 3 days. Stir it once a day to help the process along. It is just like brewing a giant pot of herbal tea for your garden. After a few days, the liquid will become thick and nutrient-dense. Strain out the solid peels, as we do not want to put those on the soil. You will be left with a concentrated liquid gold. This is your base fertilizer. When it is time to feed, you will dilute this concentrate with fresh water. Usually, 1 part of potato tea to 5 parts of clean water is the perfect ratio. This ensures it is gentle but highly effective. Now we need to talk about the second part of our secret spring formula. This is the ultimate potassium booster, and it perfectly complements our potato peel tea. I am talking about pure wood ash. If you have a fire pit or a wood-burning stove, you are sitting on a gold mine. Wood ash is essentially the skeleton of a tree, containing calcium, magnesium, and most importantly, an incredible amount of potassium. While nitrogen grows the leaves, potassium is the element that builds strong, thick branches and prepares the plant to hold heavy clusters of berries. A great way to visualize this is to think of a bodybuilder. Nitrogen is like their diet, giving them bulk, but potassium is like their bones, giving them structural strength. Without enough potassium, the new branches will be weak and floppy. They will easily snap in the wind or break under the weight of the fruit later in the season. There is a huge misconception that ash makes the soil too alkaline for currants. While they prefer slightly acidic soil, a controlled, moderate amount of ash in the spring perfectly neutralizes the harsh acids left over from winter rains, creating an ideal balance for nutrient uptake. So how do we combine the magic of potato starch with the power of wood ash? This synergy is what creates the 7-day transformation we are aiming for. You do not want to apply them on different days. They work best when delivered together. Once your potato peel tea is diluted and ready to go, take 1 cup of fine, sifted wood ash and stir it directly into a 10-litre watering can of your mixture. Let it sit for about 10 minutes so the ash can dissolve slightly. When you mix these two together, a wonderful chemical reaction happens. The organic acids from the potato peels help to break down the minerals in the ash, making the calcium and potassium instantly available to the plant roots. It is like pre-digesting the food for the bush. Think of it as a perfectly balanced protein shake after a tough workout. You are providing carbohydrates from the potato and minerals from the ash in one easy drink. Do not fall for the trap of buying expensive liquid fertilizers at the garden centre. They are mostly just water and synthetic chemicals. This homemade mixture provides a complex, organic profile of nutrients that chemical formulas simply cannot match. Before we actually pour this mixture onto the soil, we need to address a crucial early spring step that makes all the difference. This is the famous hot water trick. Long before the buds open, while the bush is still fully dormant and there is still snow on the ground, you should give your bushes a quick shower with near boiling water. I know this sounds terrifying. You might think you are going to cook your plant, but this is a proven, age-old method. The hot water does 2 amazing things. First, it instantly kills the microscopic eggs of pests, like the currant gall mite, which are hiding inside the sleeping buds. Second, the sudden burst of heat shocks the roots in a good way, sending a strong wake-up signal to the whole plant. It tells the bush that spring has officially arrived. To do this safely, you fill a metal watering can with hot water, hold it high above the bush, and quickly shower the branches from top to bottom. By the time the water hits the branches, it has cooled just enough so it does not burn the wood, but it is hot enough to kill the pests. Doing this clears the way for our secret fertilizer to work without interference from hungry insects. But what if you do not have potato peels or wood ash? What if you prefer a more conventional mineral approach? Let us talk about urea, also known as carbamide. If you are going to use synthetic fertilizers, this is the one you need in early spring. Urea is highly concentrated nitrogen. It is incredibly powerful and works very fast. Think of it as a double shot of espresso for your currant bush. It forces the plant to rapidly grow green foliage. However, it requires extreme caution. You only need about 2 tablespoons of urea dissolved in 10 litres of water for a large adult bush. One of the biggest mistakes beginners make is scattering dry urea crystals directly on the ground. When you do that, most of the nitrogen simply evaporates into the air as ammonia gas. You're literally throwing your money into the wind. Furthermore, strong clumps of dry fertilizer can chemically burn the sensitive surface roots. You must always dissolve it completely in water first. While our organic potato method is better for long-term soil health and berry sweetness, a careful application of liquid urea will definitely give you that massive, noticeable burst of green growth within just a few short days. Timing is absolutely everything when it comes to this secret spring feeding. If you do it too early, the roots are too cold to absorb the nutrients, and the fertilizer will just wash away with the spring rains. If you do it too late, the plant has already spent its precious energy trying to form leaves, and the boost will be wasted. So, when is the exact right moment? You need to watch the buds on the branches closely. You are waiting for the exact time when the buds start to swell and show a tiny hint of green at the tips. They should look like little green matches ready to strike. This is the moment of maximum sap flow. The roots are actively searching for food. Applying our potato and ash mixture right at this specific moment guarantees that 100% of the nutrients are instantly sucked up into the plant. Imagine trying to feed a baby when it is asleep. It will not work. You have to wait until it wakes up and cries for food. Your currant bush is doing the same thing. Watching the weather forecast is also important. Aim for a period where the daytime temperatures are consistently above freezing, as warm soil is necessary for root activity. Now let us talk about preparing the soil before you pour a single drop of fertilizer. You cannot just dump our secret mixture onto hard, compacted winter soil. If you do, It will just run off the surface and feed the weeds. The soil around a currant bush gets very dense over the winter from heavy snow and rain. You need to create a welcoming environment for the liquid to penetrate deep down to the feeder roots. Start by carefully clearing away any old, rotting leaves from last year. These old leaves often harbour fungal diseases and pests. Next, take a small hand rake and very gently loosen the top few inches of the soil in a circle around the bush. We call this the root zone. You have to be incredibly gentle. Currant bushes have very shallow root systems. If you dig too deep with a big shovel, you will slice right through the vital feeder roots, causing massive trauma to the plant. Just scratch the surface enough to break the hard crust. Think of it like fluffing a pillow before you lay your head down. By opening up the soil, you ensure that every single drop of your valuable fertilizer soaks straight down to where the plant actually needs it. Here is another golden rule of spring fertilizing that so many people ignore. You must never, ever apply liquid fertilizer to dry soil. Even early in the spring, if you have had a dry spell without much snow melt, the soil might be thirsty. If you pour a concentrated nutrient solution onto dry roots, the salts in the mixture will rapidly pull moisture out of the root cells, causing severe fertilizer burn. The leaves will turn brown and crispy at the edges, and the plant will suffer massive stress. To avoid this, you need to deeply water the bush with plain, clean water the day before you plan to feed it. You want the soil to be damp, like a wrung-out sponge. Imagine trying to drink a thick milkshake when you are dying of thirst. You need a glass of water first to hydrate your body. The plant works the exact same way. Pre-watering opens up the pores in the roots and prepares them to absorb the rich, heavy nutrients safely. This simple step takes a little extra time, but it completely guarantees that your secret feeding will have a purely positive, explosive effect without any negative side effects. After you have successfully applied your potato and ash tea, your job is still not quite done. We need to lock those nutrients in. This brings us to the critical step of mulching. Once the liquid has fully soaked into the loosened soil, you must cover the root zone with a thick layer of organic mulch. You can use aged compost, straw, or even grass clippings if you have them early in the season. Mulch serves several vital purposes. First, it acts like a warm blanket, keeping the soil temperature stable during those tricky spring days when it is warm in the afternoon but freezing at night. Second, it stops the sun from evaporating the moisture, keeping the roots hydrated. But most importantly, it locks the nitrogen and volatile nutrients into the soil so they do not escape into the atmosphere. A common myth is that mulch causes the trunk to rot. This only happens if you pile the mulch directly against the wood of the stems. You must always leave a small gap of bare soil right around the base of the bush, like a little donut hole. This allows the bark to breathe while still protecting the vast network of shallow roots spreading out around the plant. Let us take a moment to talk about the hidden danger of overfeeding. It is very tempting to think that if 1 bucket of fertilizer is good, 3 buckets must be amazing. This is a fatal error, especially with young currant bushes. If you give the plant too much nitrogen, it will go into a frenzy of vegetative growth. It will produce massive, incredibly long, fast-growing branches. You might look at it and think you are a gardening genius, but those branches will be soft, weak, and watery. Because the plant focused entirely on growing giant leaves, it will completely forget to produce flower buds. And remember, no flowers means no berries. Plus, soft, overfed growth is extremely attractive to aphids. It is like putting out a neon sign for pests. To avoid this, you must stick exactly to the dosages we discussed. Do not let greed ruin your harvest. We are looking for balanced, sturdy growth. A healthy spring branch should be firm and resilient, not floppy and oversized. By using our organic potato peel method, the risk of burning or overfeeding is greatly reduced compared to harsh chemical fertilizers. But moderation is still the golden rule of gardening. While our focus has been on nitrogen and potassium, we cannot forget about phosphorus. Phosphorus is the quiet hero of the garden. While you cannot immediately see its effects, like you can with nitrogen, it is working hard underground. Phosphorus is responsible for developing a massive, dense root system. The bigger the root system, the more water and nutrients the plant can pull up during the hot, dry summer months. For a conventional approach, gardeners often use superphosphate. However, phosphorus is notoriously slow to dissolve and move through the soil. If you just sprinkle it on top, it will sit there for years doing absolutely nothing. To properly introduce phosphorus in the spring, you need to make a liquid extraction, just like we did with the potato peels. You pour boiling water over the superphosphate granules and let it sit for a day, stirring frequently. This breaks it down into a form the roots can actually absorb. Once mixed into your watering can, it helps build a strong foundation for the plant. Think of it like building the basement of a house. You do not see it, but without it, the whole structure will eventually collapse under pressure. Now let me share an alternative biological activator that some advanced gardeners swear by in the spring. I am talking about common baker's yeast. Using a yeast fertilizer is an incredible way to supercharge the soil biology around your currant bushes. Here is how it works. You take a packet of dry active yeast, mix it with a little warm water and a spoon of old jam or sugar to wake it up. Once it is bubbling, you dilute it in a large bucket of water and pour it over the root zone. Now it is crucial to bust a myth right here. The yeast does not feed the plant directly. Plants do not eat yeast. Instead, the yeast causes a massive population explosion of beneficial bacteria in the soil. These bacteria aggressively break down old organic matter, instantly releasing massive amounts of hidden nitrogen and phosphorus that were trapped in the dirt. It is a biological chain reaction. Using yeast can give you that 7-day visible transformation. However, yeast aggressively consumes potassium from the soil during this process. So if you use the yeast trick, you must follow it up a few days later with a heavy dose of wood ash to replace the lost potassium. Let us quickly discuss the weather conditions on the day you decide to feed your bushes. You should never apply your liquid fertilizer in the middle of a bright, hot, sunny day. Even in early spring, the sun can be surprisingly strong. If you accidentally splash fertilizer water onto the tender new leaves while the sun is beating down, the water droplets will act like tiny magnifying glasses. They will focus the sun's rays and physically burn holes straight through the leaves. Furthermore, the heat will cause the liquid in the soil to evaporate before it can sink down to the roots. The absolute best time to apply our secret mixture is late in the afternoon or early in the evening. As the sun goes down, the soil cools slightly, and the plant transitions into a resting phase where it slowly drinks in moisture throughout the night. If you can time your feeding right before a gentle light spring rain, that is the ultimate jackpot. The rain will help wash the nutrients perfectly down into the root zone without you having to lift a finger. Being mindful of the weather makes your effort twice as effective. While we have covered the major macronutrients, we need to briefly touch on micronutrients. Think of these as the essential vitamins for your currant bush. Elements like iron, boron, and magnesium are needed in tiny amounts, but without them, the plant suffers terribly. For example, if your bush lacks iron, the new leaves will turn completely yellow, but the veins will stay dark green. This condition is called chlorosis, and it stops photosynthesis dead in its tracks. The beauty of our secret potato peel and wood ash formula is that it naturally contains a wide spectrum of these trace minerals. It is a holistic diet. Chemical fertilizers often only provide the big 3 elements, leaving the plant starving for vitamins. If you notice yellowing leaves despite your spring feeding, you might need a fast-acting foliar spray. A foliar spray is when you mix a very weak solution of liquid fertilizer and spray it directly onto the leaves. The leaves can absorb nutrients almost instantly, much faster than the roots. It is like an emergency intravenous drip for a sick patient. But for a healthy start, our organic soil drench is usually all the plant needs. So, what exactly should you expect to see during this 7-day transformation? Let me paint a picture for you. On day 1, you apply the potato and ash mixture to the damp, loosened soil. For the first 2 days, you might not notice anything happening above ground, but beneath the soil, The roots are rapidly drinking in the nutrients. By day 4, you will start to see a distinct change in the colour of the swelling buds and young leaves. They will transition from a pale yellowish green to a vibrant deep emerald green. This is the nitrogen and iron kicking in, filling the cells with fresh chlorophyll. By day 6, the stems will look noticeably plumper and more rigid. They will stand up straight instead of drooping. And by day 7, the bush will look like it has doubled in visual density. The leaves will unfold larger and broader than you have ever seen them. It is a truly dramatic shift. You will look at the bush and realise that it is fully charged and ready to produce massive amounts of flowers. This visual confirmation is incredibly satisfying and proves that your early intervention was completely worth the effort. Finally, let us review the most common mistakes you must avoid to guarantee this process works flawlessly. First, never put fertilizer right up against the main woody stems. The feeder roots are located further out, exactly under the outer edge of the branches, which we call the drip line. Put your liquid there. Second, do not skip the pre-watering step. Pouring concentrated nutrients on dry soil is a recipe for disaster. Third, do not use boiling water for the pest control shower after the buds have already opened. Once you see green leaves, hot water will kill them instantly. Only use it when the plant is completely dormant. And lastly, do not be impatient. Stick to the ratios we discussed. More is not better. Precision is better. By following these rules and using our secret potato peel and ash method, you are setting your plants up for incredible success. You are working with nature, providing organic, easily digestible food exactly when the plant is begging for it. Your reward will be heavy branches bending under the weight of the biggest, sweetest currants you have ever grown. And there you have it, the ultimate secret to transforming your currant bushes in just 7 days. By simply using the hidden power of potato peels and wood ash, you are providing a perfect explosive blend of nitrogen, starch, and potassium right when the plant needs it the most. The difference this makes is truly staggering. You will say goodbye to weak branches and tiny sour fruit. Instead, you will be harvesting massive, sweet clusters of berries that will make every other gardener in your neighbourhood jealous. It is all about giving your plants the right fuel to wake up strong. Thank you so much for watching and learning with us today. If you want more secret gardening tips to maximise your harvests, make sure to subscribe to the channel right now. Give this video a big thumbs up if you are excited to try this method. And before you go, I have a question for you. Are you going to try the organic potato peel method, or are you sticking with commercial fertilizers this year? Drop your answer in the comments below and let us get a conversation started.